The views and opinions expressed on the cap are those of the hosts. They do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of OldMilk Media. Any opinions stated aren't intended to offend anyone. All right, episode 411. I'm here with Taylor McLeod, Nate Sperlin here, Cap Podcast. Excited for this episode, first episode in 2 weeks. Taylor's been 2 weeks. What you been up to, man?
Not a whole lot. Working, doing the normal stuff. I'm trying to get off caffeine right now, so I can hear my heartbeat in my ears and in my frontal lobe and everything. So yeah, we're battling through it. I wouldn't say this is my flu game, but this is my headache game.
Have you tried to just say no?
No. I would never.
Man, last 2 weeks for me have been interesting. I went to Dave & Buster's like last Tuesday. I went to Dave & Buster's and I got like 2 high scores on like this football game where basically you have to it's basically like a like when you have to run through the ladder, agility ladder and stuff like that, you have to like make sure your feet are whatever. It's like one of those games, and I got 2 high scores, and then because of that, I got so much stuff from the gift shop. So that was cool. Unfortunately, I went to the doubleheader yesterday for the Mets where they got blown out. What was it, 21-3? We left
21-3.
Yeah, we left before it even got that. We left at 11-0. Which is a good decision. And then we went back, and then Jose Quintana was actually, well, let me not say it like that. Jose Quintana was competent, quality start, and then it all went to shit after they took him out the game. So, yeah, we're just on to 2026.
2026, that's tough.
Yeah, and shout out the Cubs because they are the only ones, well, and the Dodgers, but those 2 teams are the only ones we're talking about right now.
From your team.
Yeah, okay. What are the other ones? You want to talk about how bad the White Sox are, or?
Oh no, I'm not talking about your teams. My wonderful fellas have a fighting chance still. They're gutting it out.
They are. How many games are they in back of the wild card?
They came in today down 3 of the last wild card spot, and Toronto I think just took the lead. So
I watched it all. Yes, they did.
So if they took the lead, then if Toronto wins today, then they'll end at 3.
Okay.
But I mean, they started last week down 5 after they got swept by Toronto, which they could have been up 1 in the wild card, but
there's a lot of game left. So is the life of
a middle of the pack baseball team.
But hopefully this will be a really good finish because I don't know, I feel like for the most part this season has been a little sleepy. Like there have been like times where we've seen spectacular moments, but for the most part, or maybe it's just because like the hometown teams suck, but it feels like a less remarkable season, at least in New York City. Also, nobody's playing. Everybody's hurt, and everybody got traded on both sides.
It's definitely it's a weird season. This series right now between Seattle and Baltimore is kind of like an example to me of like kind of like the new guard that we could see, where it's these teams that we're not necessarily used to. But we say this every time there's like some new teams that come into the mix, and then like next year it'll be like, all right, Red Sox, Yankees. You know what I mean? Like something will happen and we'll be right back to like Red Sox, Yankees, Giants, Dodgers, just right back how it's like not supposed to be, but you know what I mean?
These teams don't like each other. They love to hate each other. Yeah. All this.
They'll be like, oh, we got these young, talented teams, and then it'll just be like, yeah,
that you thought. That storyline only matters in the NFL now because you're actually physically assaulting the other team. Like that's literally the job.
Right, exactly.
And I'm excited to have football back soon. Justin Fields, 4,000 yards. You could book it. But anyway, this is the Cat Podcast, episode 411. Thank you for watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Do us a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at OldMilk Media. And check out all the Old Milk content on oldmilk.co. It's your weekly sort through hip hop. That being said, Taylor, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this album. I'm excited to just be talking, music again. We were talking about it before we got on. It's only been 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been a month and a half. So I'm excited just to be here.
It does. We're in the dog days of August, honestly, and it's really impacting my view on time because everything's just
Yeah.
going so much slower. I kind of like it because it does remind me of like like when you were a kid and then you're like everything's going so slow and then your parents are like wait until you're an adult, everything becomes a blur.
Yeah.
And we finally have that moment of childhood again. So after this, I'm gonna go watch some Adventure Time and just chill.
Yeah, it's another thing too, and it's kind of crazy. And you and I are only 3 years out of school at this point, but like from the time you're what 5 or 6 until you're 21, 22, you have this same like schedule every year where it's like you basically know. So I'm still getting used to getting to like the end of August and not having like school start again. You know what I mean? Like obviously I know it's not happening, but there is
Mhm.
still like I'm still hit like the middle of August and I'm like, all right, yeah, like we're gonna get back into the swing of things. And it's like I've been in the swing of things for 3 years now
The the,
without
the
like the
whole muscle memory is like, wait, so there's not going to be a big change coming in September? Just like confused.
right. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Let's get into our segments before we get into the main event. First one we have is power rankings. And Taylor, you can start from third place to first place.
Perfect. So our last show was Utopia, and I lied. I haven't really played it at all since we talked about
He
it. Not
lied.
not on purpose or anything, but I just haven't been playing it. So from the bottom, I have Return of the Mac, Prodigy and Alchemist. Number two, this album, this is kind of forecast for my album of the year, probably at this point. Great Escape, Larry June, and Alchemist. And of course, there's a trend here, which is The Alchemist. And then number one, this might come as a surprise, but I've been playing Oxymoron by Schoolboy Q
Oh, that
so
is a
much lately.
surprise.
Like, I don't know what started it. I just like it. I don't even remember what song came on in Shuffle. And I was like looking at the cover and I was like, damn, that was a really well executed album. And I went back to it and it's like so much better than even I could have remembered. So those are my three: Return of the Mac, Great Escape, Oxymoron.
The one theme that we're gonna have for this segment, as I heard your list, is that we are gonna show TDE some love. Number three, I have Absol Herbert. I texted you, Taylor, like a week or two ago about how many albums in 2023 really are on the same level of cohesiveness and just overall brilliance as Herbert. And we only really came up with what, like two albums,
Yeah.
out of all the albums that we've listened to and talked about. So don't be surprised if I make a case for Herbert being album of the year in 2023. Number two, I have Travis Scott Utopia only because I like Topia Twins and Till Further Notice. Like only because I like the tracks that are probably 21 Savage throwaways. That's the only reason why it's up there. And number one, we have Gunna, Gift and the Curse. I mean, come on. Like, do I have to I'm gonna say it every episode. Yeah, it's a young Gunna one, and I'm still a big P and a star like Dallas. Like, come on. You can't beat that. All right, moving on. We're gonna have verses, and we're gonna compare two Trippie Red albums. We're gonna be comparing a Love Letter to You 3 versus a Love Letter to You 4. Taylor, which one do you prefer?
So this is pretty cut and dry for me. First of all, four has like a million songs, so that's already a big like check in the wrong box for me. But I'm going a Love Letter to You 3 just strictly based off the strengths of the 1400 999 freestyle. I think that's like one of the most like obviously you and I have talked so highly about Juice WRLD so many times on this show, but like that's another one where it's just like, yeah, this guy was on another level. Like he was on a totally other level for how old he was, like the skill set he had, and to hear like the people talk about how he formulated the verses that he laid down. It's like just based off the strength of that one song, I'm going three.
Yeah. I'm going four with this one. I think three has higher highs, as you said before. The 1400 999 freestyle is one of those. But I think overall, in terms of just percentage of songs that I have consistently listened to over and over again from both projects, I think it's higher for a Love Letter to You 4. So because of that, I'm inclined to go to that instead. Also, there's like really good moments on a Love Letter to You 4. Really good features. Juice WRLD feature stands out to me. The Young Boy feature stands out to me. Um, Even like the Smoke Perp feature like stands out to me, like because of how he's used on that album. So definitely Love Letter to You 4, but I respect the Love Letter to You 3. Firestarter is crazy. Topanga is crazy. It's just percentages. That's just what we're dealing with here. Shooting percentages and Raptor and LeBron and all these other random ass basketball stats that we're dealing with here. So on the other side of this commercial break, we will be talking about A Love Letter to You 5 by Trippie Redd. Stay around if you love us. Yo, this Young Lil album is the best of all time. I can't wait to talk to Taylor about it, man. This is gonna be the greatest thing ever. Yo, what's good, Taylor? How you doing?
I hate this album.
Do you have to clean your ears first?
My girlfriend said everything I play in the car scares her. She said I lost all my taste.
Clearly.
And I need your help.
Well, what am I supposed to do about it? You want me to order you Q-tips?
No, I need hoodies. I need a beanie. I need t-shirts. I need you to help.
All right, I'll see what I can do. I can send you this beanie, but everything else we're gonna have to see. Introducing the 2023 OldMilk collection. This collection, comprised of hoodies, t-shirts, beanies, and stickers designed by Nate Sperlin, is guaranteed to show everyone your superior style and taste. Man, I hope Taylor doesn't scare the viewers with that bummy outfit. Oh, no bummy outfit today. Look at that.
No, I'm much better. The album sounded better. Everything is better. All thanks to OldMilk.
Rush over to oldmilk.co to shop the 2023 OldMilk collection today. All right, thank you for sitting through that commercial break. This is the Cap episode 411, and on this episode, we are talking about A Love Letter to You 5 by Trippie Redd, 19 tracks, 51 minutes long, featuring Corbin, Sky Morales twice, Lil Wayne, Roddy Ricch, The Kid Laroi, Tommy Lee Sparta, and Bryson Tiller. Join A Love Letter to You 5 conversation in the comments below. That being said, Taylor, what were your first initial thoughts on A Love Letter to You 5?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I do like it when rappers and artists in general do like series like this and they stick with the series. And I also like it when they do projects outside of the series and then come back to the series, because that always makes it feel a little more special. You know what I mean? Like, I think the biggest instance of that is probably The Carters by Lil Wayne. But then even you have, the Blueprint series by Jay-Z, but you have these other projects mixed in. So I like that concept. I really like that Trippie Redd has done that over and over. And honestly, my first impression of this off my very first listen, like I put it on the big speakers, which I normally don't do, but I did it for this one. And the music is super nice. Like it's super listenable. And Trippie Redd has moments where he has such a distinct singing voice that really, really, it doesn't sound the same as Lil TJ, but in the same way that Lil TJ like really understands his voice and how to convey that emotion with his voice, especially when he's singing. I think Trippie Redd's really great at that and knows how to pick and choose his moments where he's singing. But then you do have a couple moments on this project where he really takes a step back and he just like raps, like really, really just raps. And knowing that he's from the Midwest, it's not like this it's not this heavy like New York sound or this Southern thing or the California. Like he has a very like, I don't want to call it like Chicago, but because I know he's not from Chicago, but it's a very like Midwestern when he really is just like, all right, put like a sample on, put the beat on, and he just raps. So I think that Trippie Redd, like, I think there's a lot of great pacing on this project. And I think there's a lot of moments that do a lot of different things, but it doesn't feel like jumbled. It doesn't feel like a bunch of random songs thrown together. So I think it's pretty cohesive. I think it's really nice, like listening and overall my first impressions are really positive. And I didn't expect to dislike it, but I didn't really expect to like feel much of anything at all.
Yeah. So after my first listen, I think I understood that it was good, but I didn't really understand how good it was. And I think it was because of the fact that, like when someone breaks your trust and then when they start, for lack of a better term, acting right again, you're kind of like, what's your ulterior motive? Like you don't fully trust it. Yeah. That's how I felt with the first listen. This is the first A Love Letter to You in 4 years. The last one, A Love Letter to You 4, came out in 2019. Since then, Trippie Redd has explored his sound. He released Pegasus, didn't like that. That was trash. Then he released Neon Shark, which was a rock album, so it wasn't really a hip hop album. But it was really, really good. I enjoyed that. Trip at Night was solid. It was more of that rage sound, and then you have Mansion Music, which was trash, but I don't really think that's his fault because it was a lot of leaks and a lot of things that led to it being rushed and it not being complete. So I was coming into listening to A Love Letter to You 5 with two questions. Can Trippie Redd rediscover the sonics and meet the standards of A Love Letter to You series? And the second question was, can Trippie Redd just rediscover consistency just in general? I think for the second question, I have to wait for the next album to come out. But for the first question, I think that he has rediscovered it, although it does seem like he's a little bit rusty. There isn't as much polish on this album as I'm expecting from a Trippie Redd, a Love Letter to You album. For example, Corbin's verse on Take Me Away on the first song. I think that it's valuable to it, but I do come away from that song wondering if his feature would be better in the beginning, but then at the same time, it's the first song. So if the first person we hear on a Trippie Redd album is someone that we don't even know or we didn't even know existed, that kind of complicates some things. So it kind of seems like it's a no-win situation, but it there's a few no-win situations here, I guess is what I'll say. And then again, I think another part of the consistency is the transitions, also how songs close. For example, Last Days and Praying for Love, those are two songs that close out beautifully. You hear the beat go for at least 15, 30 seconds, and you could really feel closure with, at the end of that song. And then you have songs like How You Alive and A Feeling, where the song just like stops at the end. And it's like, I kind of wanted to hear the beat more. I kind of wanted you to close it out for real, for real. And that kind of takes away from the cohesiveness. And again, it's just not that much polish or not as much polish as I expect for there to be. So little things like that kind of ruin what could be a really great album or take it down a peg from really great to good. But overall, it's a good album. I feel like he's rediscovered the standard of A Love Letter to You. That's the series here. And I'm excited to, well, I'm interested. I'm intrigued to see what he has next for us.
Yeah. So that makes me think of two different things. First, I'm not and I'm not gonna lie about it, like I'm not a huge Trippie Redd fan. I like Trippie Redd. I have a lot of respect for his music, but it's not like I've really kept up and like I'm not press and play second something comes out on Thursday night. Like I'm not waiting for it like that. So in terms of like you sensing that rust more than me, that makes sense because to me I just play it and I'm like, yep, this is for sure Trippie Redd, like for sure Trippie Redd. But what I will say is having listened to those albums between 4 and this one, so between A Love Letter to You 4 and A Love Letter to You 5, especially the one, I think what was the one that came out in like August 2021?
Trip at Night.
Yeah, so I don't know the name of it. I can't remember exactly which one.
Is that the one that has Mr. Rage on it? With
Yeah.
Playboi Carti? Yeah, that's Trip at Night.
All right. So that's like the one that I probably listened to the closest to the release, and I've played all the other ones in between. And I think that part of me why I like when artists do the series of albums is that they're able to kind of like lock back in to a different to like they're almost like their most pure like spot as an artist where they're like, all right, I went over here and I did the rock album, I did the Rage album, I did the Mansion music that people really didn't like, from the cover art to the music, people really didn't like that. So it's like, all right, I've done all these things and it's like, let me go back over here and do what I know I'm best at, but with like more life experience, with more skill, with more. So I like this as the return to that Trippie Redd from the previous music that we've heard. And one of the songs, and I know we're going to get to favorite tracks, but one of the songs really like stamped this one as like Left for Dead is really him just like sitting back rapping. And to me, that was such like all right, this is a full like break from any sort of like rock music, any sort of experimental, any sort of anything, which obviously he was built on part of that. Like, it's not like he came up just like strictly bars. Like he wasn't, you know what I
He was
mean?
more experimental than anything, honestly.
Right. Exactly. So he wasn't like this, like, lyrical miracle at any point, but my favorite thing that rappers do is rap. You know what I mean? And so like, it sounds so simple, but it's really like the truth.
It's because you're a
It's like,
Patriots fan. You like when people do their job.
hey, yeah, I guess. I don't know if Bill Belichick is looking for bars or not, but that's my favorite. That's my favorite thing. And I feel like this is just such a break backwards into a much more like simple Trippie Redd. And it's not super challenging to listen to. And sometimes you need that from an artist. Like, I have a ton of respect for when artists challenge their fan base to grow with them. But I also have a ton of respect for after whether that growth happens or not, when the artist goes back and is like, all right, but I'm still here though. Like this is still me. I can still just be me. So this project is really refreshing to me in that way. And again, it's like I don't want to act like I'm the biggest Trippie Redd fan in the world because that would be, disingenuous. But to hear some of the simplicity on this album, it's like, all right, this guy is still like a guy. Like he's just like he is an artist. It's not this like character that he's created and he has to like live in that world all the time. Like someone we just talked about, like early Playboy Cardi, it's like, all right, there's a person here, right?
Mhm.
New Playboy Cardi is like, oh no, this is like King Vamp. This is something that's been built and something that's been, put together and raised up to this other level that is like it's a whole different thing. So I said my favorite thing is when rappers rap, and it's also like my favorite thing when people are just like people and they're just
Mhm.
themselves. And I think that this is a great example of Trippie Redd just being himself. And obviously, we have some of like the controversy that came out on social right before this album came out, where I guess he was not faithful to his girlfriend.
Mhm.
I'm not like super tapped into the
His
Trippie Redd
his
drama.
girlfriend also has two features on this
Well,
album. That's
exactly, right.
Sky Morales.
And
Yeah,
those two songs are really good.
they are. Well, except
So it's
for
like,
which one is it? Is it a feeling that just fucking cuts off at the end, so I can't even fully enjoy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, but I think that even builds into it. It's like
Hmm.
you're getting more of a look into like a real life as opposed to like some like manufactured music. And obviously, like every artist manufactures music. That's what they do. They're artists. Like sometimes you have to step out of yourself to go make the stuff you want. But it's always my favorite when they return to home and they're like, all right, but like I'm still here and this is my life and here's how I'm going to convey it to you.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to talk about the rapping a little bit. I think there are a few, and this has been something that's common over the course of I don't even know how many Trippie Redd albums I've listened to where there are songs like this. I think there are usually a few songs, or I know there are usually a few songs where Trippie Redd is just rapping, and it kind of seems like these are like prove it tracks from the standpoint
Yeah.
of, yeah, I got all this, I have this good melody, I'm able to adjust my voice however I want to, but don't get it twisted, I can still rap. And I think I'm the one that I'm conflicted on the most is I'm Mad at Me featuring Lil Wayne, not because it's not good, but because of the fact that where it's placed.
Yeah.
I feel like it would do better being placed or at the end or maybe even being the outro track. I think it feels like an outro track, first of all. And then second of all, we're listening to all these tracks where he is giving us that melody, he's giving us that vibe, and then right in the middle is just like it's just like a completely different vibe that of what we were accustomed to for the previous 9-10 tracks before that. So I do like the Prove It tracks. I do think that if you're really listening to Trippie Redd in the first place, you're seeing that he's actually rapping on most of these songs in the first place. Maybe melodically rapping, but he's still rapping. But I do just have an issue with that one track because of where it's placed specifically. Um, Additionally, another thing that fascinates me about Trippie Redd is his song construction. I mean, there's so many tracks here where there's two choruses and one verse, but then you have songs like Reality where it's one verse and it's just one chorus after the verse. You have A Feeling, which is two choruses that are sung by Trippie Redd, and then the actual verse is sung by the feature Sky Morales. You have Romantic Fantasy where it's just a verse, and then on Left for Dead, the verse is literally 3 lines. But it shows his versatility, it shows his understanding. It also shows how he's not going to put himself in a box from the standpoint of the song needs to be structured this way because I'm a rapper and this is hip hop and songs need to have a hook and then a bar and then bars and then a hook and then bars and then a hook again, et cetera, et cetera. It really shows his brilliance as an artist, I feel like. So yeah, all that stuff really fascinates me. And honestly, it's not even the first time that I've heard of a Trippie Redd song where he just sings the hooks and the features are the actual verses. I believe Dangerous on A Love Letter to You Too is also structured that way. So it's really interesting to see him play around with song structure and also see how it works. Additionally, I think Left for Dead is the most lively and colorful track on the album. Trippie Redd is carrying Wind, the song Wind, and then I hated Helicopter on the first listen, but then when I realized the feature is like talking like, yo, I got mad guns and you don't want these problems essentially, I was like, oh, okay. Now I like it on the second listen and the third listen, it kind of crystallized that for me. And then finally, Trip McKnight, that from my understanding, that is either a throwaway or a leak, or for some reason it didn't make Trip at Night, but it was supposed to be on Trip at Night. And it sounds like it. But I guess my final question before we get to favorite tracks, is, it seems like, I guess I'm just gonna ask it. What is the status of Trippie Redd's career? Because like, we're looking at this album in this track list, and it's not as illustrious as previous track lists that he's had. And then also, again, like, you see so much Trippie Redd hate, and it seems like it's becoming increasingly cool to hate on Trippie Redd the same way it's cool to hate on Roddy Ricch, or it's cool to hate on Lil Baby now. So I'm just wondering, where do you see Trippie Redd in terms of his career and just his status in hip hop?
Yeah, I mean, I think Trippie Redd's in a very interesting spot right now, and along with other names you said and other names that weren't mentioned, where some of these artists get to their mid to late 20s and things start to go a little weird, right? Because it's not so easy. It's not like, all right, let me get everyone I know on every album and everything's going to go crazy, and I'm still young, so I can, people are going to be like, oh shit, like, he has all these features. And I think he's in a great position to really solidify himself as an artist here. And like, he's always been an artist, but really, like, I think that time when some of the hype dies down a little bit is when we see some artists really, really take like a full mastery over their craft and be like, no, here, this is what I do. And that's when they like set on the path to become like lifelong musicians. So I think he has that opportunity right in front of him. And I think that even something as simple as like working on music with his girlfriend is like a huge indication of like, let's turn like real life into beautiful music. And it's like, we don't have to go for the social media moment, or we don't have to set SoundCloud on fire, because we're at a point where hopefully the finances are in order, where you don't need to do stuff like that constantly to stay afloat. And you're at a spot where like the ground is solid enough for you to really, really flourish as an artist. And whether that's as like a pure rapper, as a musician, as an artist, a much broader artist, who knows? We'll see what happens. But I think that when rappers and artists hit this point in their career and this point in their life, it goes one of two ways. It's like they're trying to recapture something that doesn't exist anymore, or they're like, no, like I'm an adult now. Like, I can make this music and make it how I want it to sound. They know how they want it to sound. They know it works for them. They know it works for their core fan base. And it's not so much about, all right, let me have the hottest song on SoundCloud that goes number one on iTunes that people are talking about on Twitter, that turns into a, maybe not for Trippie Redd, a TikTok sound, but it's like, all right, everyone like knows this like one part that's gonna like go off, at the party or whatever. So I think that it's a split road in front of him. And based on how this album sounds, it sounds to me like he's gonna go down the musical road. That's like, no, I do this. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, he built the character for himself. And I think, he was part of a generation that like the character was almost more important than the music. But like a lot of those guys from like that early SoundCloud era, or maybe the second SoundCloud wave, are like incredible musicians too. Like, the music is so good. So I have a lot of confidence that he's just going to keep making good music, and maybe it'll get more stripped down and less bells and whistles, less, glossy, less packed with features. And that's, I feel like, where you start to get the best music from some of these people.
Yeah, I agree. I as you were talking, it kind of reminded me of Big Sean in that way, where at once upon a time he was on top of his subgenre or genre in general, and it seems like over time people have kind of not gravitated to him as much as they once used to. And then based off of that, I mean, based off of Love Letter to U5, it seems like he's still has the good music. I think that there's a level that he can still reach above this, but I think that this is a really good response to all the doubt and all the potential criticism that he has been facing over the past 3, 4, 5 years, or well, 3, 2, 4. Anyway, moving on to favorite tracks so we can get out of here. What are your favorite tracks, Taylor?
So actually, I think it's interesting. We had a conversation. To me, I'm Mad at Me with the Wayne feature feels like the end of the first half of the project. So it does feel like an outro to that first half. So I'm Mad at Me. I have 3 favorites. I'm Mad at Me with Wayne. Took My Breath Away with Sky Morales. And then my favorite song is Left 4 Dead. Like, Left 4 Dead clear is like by quite a bit for me.
Yeah. For me, I have Last Days first, and then How You Alive second, and then I have Left 4 Dead third. A Feeling would have been fourth, but I just can't get over the fact that it just cuts off. Like, that just bothers me. I'm still probably gonna listen to it most frequently, or one of the more frequent songs that I'm listening to, but Yeah, I'm gonna always bring it up every time. Why do you have to cut that off? Rate the album. Let's rate it. Personal playback value, objective playback value. Taylor, go.
Personal playback value. I could see a couple of these songs, especially Left 4 Dead, sticking with me for a couple weeks. I don't think it has much more than a couple weeks for me, but that's just because like I'm not the biggest Trippie Red fan. Overall, I don't see a ton of light for this, and you could tell me I'm wrong, and I'll just agree with you and listen to you because you probably have a better gauge on that than I do right now. But I think this is kind of like the Utopia conversation. It's like whenever For All the Dogs comes out, all this is gone. So that's kind of like depend if it gets like pushed way out. I'm not going to keep saying it, but like kind of like my objective playback value is just like a blanket at this point. It's like, yeah, when Drake drops, everyone else has to get out of the way.
Yeah, understandably so. Trippie Red actually pushed this album back, a week because he thought Drake was dropping last week. It was originally supposed to come out last week. But yeah, for personal playback value, I think that this has some months for me. I think that the third listen really solidified it as a complete project. Although I do have my issues with it, and it's not the most complete, it still qualifies, especially in 2023, where we're not really getting complete projects at all. It seems like definitely one of the more complete projects of the year. Objectively, see, I don't see Trippie Red and Drake in the same lane. Like, yeah, they're both hip hop artists, they're both rappers, but I don't think Trippie Red's fans are going to ditch Trippie Red for Drake. Like, I don't think like I think like obviously Drake has a lot of fans and stuff like that, but I don't think they really care as much as Travis Scott fans would for Drake.
I
So
think
that
I
being
think when
said,
the I think when Drake's involved, my personal playback kind of bleeds over into my feelings about the objective playback.
so that being said, I kind of have this penciled in for I could see it 2 months as well. But that being said, this has been the Cat Podcast episode 411. Thank you for watching. Let us know your opinions on A Love Letter to You 5 in the comments below. Do us a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Old Milk Media. And check out all the Old Milk merch on oldmilk.co. That being said, we will be back when hip hop tells us what to be, which will hopefully be next week for all the dogs. And hopefully Drake delivers a good album so I can continue being a fan. But that being said, we'll be back when hip hop tells us to be, and we are out. Thanks for watching.